up, fam? Today I had on Megan Rose Lane. Megan is an epic mindset mentor who's dedicated to empowering women to make positive changes in their lives. She is hilarious, incredibly valuable, and authentic on her social media content, which reaches tons of women worldwide. Megan helps people to rewrite their stories, break free from the comparison trap, and unlock their unlimited potential. She shares her inspiring experience hitting rock bottom and how that enabled her to create a fulfilling life for herself. And now she's on a mission to help other women do the same. In this episode, Megan and I dive deep into the topic of playing a bigger role in our lives. What that actually means to play bigger, which may actually surprise you. And frankly, I love this topic. We also discuss the impact of social media and its effects on our self-image and how we can deal with that. If you're looking to tap into your authentic self and break free from unaligned expectations, this is an episode you don't want to miss. If you like the show, please share it with a homie, hit me on social, and definitely subscribe. It truly means the world to me. Enjoy the show. Megan, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
I'm glad you just told me right before we started recording that I can't ask you anything that requires a lot of brain power, so I'll do my best.
Easy questions only today, is late.
Yeah, so we're recording. You're in London right now. This is actually like the earliest show that I've recorded, so I just did a full beer bottle of coffee, so I'm okay.
You're good. I'm actually in Manchester. I'm at home at my parents' in Manchester.
Beautiful. Love that. So before I ask you anything, we're going to talk about truly tapping into your own power, playing bigger roles in life, making more money, feeling aligned, all that good stuff. But What was your last oh shit moment? What is the last thing that you can think of?
I think this weekend I had an oh shit moment, a good oh shit moment though, yeah?
Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
Could be good, could be bad, whatever you want it to be.
Because I was in this apartment, which I bought last year, and I was so excited when I bought it because it's my first property, and it was like a big moment for me. It's like a single mom, doing my own thing. This is something that I had on my vision board. I was like, I'm going to buy my own property. And when it happened, when I actually came to buy it and it was going through, I had a huge financial crisis happen where I found out that my accountants had fucked up my account. So I went into full on panic. Is this the right decision? But it was already going through and I didn't want to pull out. And it actually turned into a big kind of drama when it was something that I really wanted to cherish and enjoy. And this weekend, I just had a moment. I was in here with my daughter and we were just dancing around. And I just had an oh shit, I am living inside an answered prayer and I'm worrying about what it is that I want next in life. And I'm stressing about I don't have this yet and I don't have that yet. And I just had to catch myself and be hey, you prayed for this and you're in it. You're dancing around inside the vision. Oh shit. Notice it, soak it up,
That resonates so much. That's literally the story of my life, Megan. Everything, first of all, congratulations. That's amazing. Beautiful. It's so cool. And for me, it's I constantly do that. It's this loop that I have to be really aware of that I'm doing. I achieve something and then I'm worried about the next thing. So I've talked about it with various people, including my coach / therapist. I've talked about it with my mother, who's also a coach, and it's just is it the same theme as this sort of not enoughness, right? Or is it something else? It's just an interesting thing because I totally do that.
Yeah, I feel that. It's a thread of just constant. Oh, I mean, it's the world we live in as well, right? We're just, especially with social media, comparison and this having this hunger for more. I think that in life you can find the sweet spot or you have to kind of find the sweet spot where it's okay, I want more and it's okay to want more.
Yeah.
And it actually gives you a sense of purpose and a reason to get out of bed in the morning, to want more out of life and to have that inner passion and hunger, but also to be fully grateful and present and just in where you are with so much appreciation and gratitude and constantly reminding yourself of how far you've come without just trying to disregard it all and be I did all that, but that means nothing now because there's the next level. And it's
right.
There's a sweet spot in the middle where it's this is so fucking amazing and it's so enough and I want more,
That I picture a Venn diagram, that sweet spot though, it just seems really difficult to hit, but I'm going for that sweet spot. But yeah. before we go into all this, I want to ask you, where did this all come from? Have you always had this sort of passion for empowering people, particularly women? Or was there some sort of moment in life, like big defining moment that changed everything?
Yeah, no, there was definitely a defining moment, because before I started doing all of this, which was probably around like 6 or 7 years ago now, I was not, it was not in me. I don't get me wrong, I was a kind person who liked to give, and I cared about people, and I've always been empathetic and stuff, but I didn't have any kind of purpose towards helping other women. And I'd spent my life with an eating disorder, had bulimia since I was literally like 11 or 12 years old. And then I went to uni. I did a lot of drugs. I'd never done drugs before, but I got caught up in like a big drug scene at uni. And then I developed really bad anxiety and panic attacks. So my journey of healing was like, I got to a point where I was like, I'm going to end up kind of killing myself through these behaviors. Like the eating disorder was so bad, like physically, emotionally, mentally, it was just so draining. And I just couldn't carry on with it. And I was like, there has to be, another way. And I had this like very kind of spiritual moment. And we've talked about church and like how I like rejected the idea of God because church was not a nice experience for me. So the defining moment for me was going through all of this painful shit and not feeling safe to like be me in the world, being so insecure, needing constant validation, getting so lost in just searching outside of myself for love. And then one day being so at rock bottom that I just like looked up and was like, if there's a God, please fucking help me. Like, this is the time. This is when I need you. Like, I surrender. And that was it. That was like the moment. Everything started changing because I really felt that like, and like when you truly surrender, there's like an energy of like, I give up, it's like and you let something else take over, something that has much higher intelligence than your little human pea brain could ever have. And and that's when it all started to change. And it was that journey of finding spirituality and realizing the magic and then accessing my own inner power and then being like, holy fuck, I'm the creator of my own life. And this whole time I've been choosing to do drugs and choosing to make myself sick and choosing all of these destructive behaviors. And it was like, the power is now back in my hands, and what am I going to do with it? And I think when I realized that, it's like anything, when you realize something, like you want to just go tell the whole world, right? You want to go tell everyone. It's like you've cracked the code, you've got the secret. It's like, everybody listen. So that's what it became for me. Like, I think even talking about it now, like I could cry because when I think about women feeling like I did, that's the like I feel like I'm being stabbed in the heart. Like any woman that feels lost, any woman that feels insecure, alone, is outsourcing love, needs validation, is kind of abandoning herself in the process. Like I just feel so much empathy for those women because I know how it feels. And I still have moments where I have those emotions and those feelings,
Yeah, that's super powerful. I actually got goosebumps when you were telling me part of that story because, so I have in my notes, I quoted a book, and you described something very important from that same book, actually, which is Marianne Williamson's The Return to Love. Mm-hmm. And it's based on A Course in Miracles. And so what you talked about, that sort of moment, it's big in those teachings of A Course in Miracles. It's sort of on your knees moment. It's a moment where you hit that rock bottom and you surrender to something bigger than yourself, right? Yeah. And that's when things start to fall into place once you actually truly surrender and you have that moment. So that's super powerful.
Yeah.
What's interesting about defining moments is I feel like at least for me, I think that I have defining moments constantly. They happen all the time, but they're not really defining moments without the power to integrate the lessons. It's as if every single like little lessons that you're getting either daily or weekly or whatever, if you can integrate those, you would be having, or I would be having, micro defining moments all the time that could just be continue to up level your life. But it's just like, do you feel like, do you have a way to, do you have like a little trick or something that you do when you learn lessons, when something, you get these little hits, these little universal hits from God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, that you are able to use and integrate on a daily?
Yeah, I guess that's like, it becomes very natural. I think when you first have that self-awareness and you're like constantly watching what you're doing and you're like, oh my God, I just said that. And what does that mean? And that links back to this wound, and you're very like aware of it. And I think over time, when you've been self-aware for a long time, that those things integrate very easily and you just embody it. Like you just realize it, learn it, take hold of it and say, okay, that's who I want to be now. That's how I'm going to show up. And you just embody it. It just becomes such a natural thing. I don't think I think about it. No.
That's great. That's amazing. So it's practice for you. It's just practice.
Yeah, it's practice. Yeah, it's practice. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. You talked a little bit right there about comparison. It's a huge thing. It's something we do so much. And I love to see some of your posts that you do on Instagram. And you do some of these posts that are these sort of like Instagram versus reality type stuff. But it's in a way, you're actually very funny on Instagram all the time. But some of these they're not necessarily meant to be funny. They're actually meant to show how we normalize perfect lives and perfectionism and all that stuff. So how do you help people that you mentor get out of those cycles of self-comparison and comparing ourselves to perfection on social?
I think that the key with, like, I had a big perfectionism problem for a long time, and that was kind of like the mask that I hid behind when I was feeling really super insecure.
Me too.
Did you?
I'm a recovering perfectionist.
Are you a perfectionist? That's also your star sign, though.
Recovering.
We're all in recovery.
Oh, is that a Libra thing?
Yeah, I think so. That's what I've heard. And I think that for me it was the wow, I used to edit my pictures so badly, and that's why I do the side by sides now, because I'm like, there's almost a part of me that feels so guilty for what I put out into the world and the impact that I've had on people, that now it's like I try to like undo that and like show people it in a way. It's like me trying to make up for what I did. Even though I do forgive myself and I didn't know any better at the time, I was doing my best.
Yeah.
But definitely think that I used to edit my photos. I used to edit my body as well. Like I would like pinch my waist in and make my butt bigger and do all these things on photos. And what I realized is that I was living like a double life. And I remember a moment when my sister, we were on holiday and I had really, really bad bulimia. I was going to the toilet after every single meal. I was completely lost. I was crying every time I looked in the mirror. I was just like, I like loathed myself, and it was such a hard feeling. But online, I had this image of like absolute perfection. And I remember my sister, and I didn't get it. Like I wasn't self-aware enough to understand that there was this huge like double life going on. I just felt lost and didn't know why, you know? My sister, we were in the pool and she was like, I just have to like tell you, the person that you are on Instagram is not the person in front of me. And like, this can't be good for you. It can't be healthy. Like, how do you feel? And I just sat with it and was like, shit, what have I done? And I remember that night I went onto my Instagram, and I'm the kind of person that when I realize something, that's it. Like I'm done. Like all I need is that one moment of realization, and then it's go time. Like I'm not hanging about. And I went home back to the hotel room that night and deleted all of my selfies. I deleted all of them. And I was like, I'm starting over. I'm doing it again. Because what happens with comparison is you reject yourself. Every time you compare yourself to someone else and say they're better than me, or like she's this and I'm not that, and you put yourself on that you put them on a pedestal, like you are in a state of self-rejection, and it just there's nothing good can come from it. Nothing good can come from making your life that perfect. And it's those moments like in private where you're on your own, and it's like you're comparing your real, true, authentic, messy, raw, beautiful human self, who is more than enough in every moment, just because she is or he is, to this curated, impossible standard. And I think comparing yourself to other people is painful, but comparing yourself to an impossible version of yourself is even more painful.
That's what I was going to ask you. So there's the comparison and versus this perfect facade, or right? There's that. Then there's the comparison of someone that you really just aspire to do and be like. And so what do you think about that? Because how do you, where's that sweet spot between comparing?
That's the sweet spot. That's the sweet spot. Because
and using it as an expander, Because
it's inspiration.
Right.
Because that's the sweet spot is, where did you get?
I dropped something.
What's left?
You drink water. I'm going to keep drinking coffee because you made me get up so early for London time.
The sweet spot is where you take the inspiration that you need and you don't make it mean anything about you. You don't make their life mean anything about yours. So you're not internalizing anything. It's like they're over there, they're doing their thing, good for them. Celebrate them. That's a huge energy, like celebrate them.
Yeah, that's big. That's hard to do. That can be really hard to do.
It's hard to, and again, that's one thing that takes a lot of practice. It's like, actually, especially with women, like we have a huge sister wound. So we have been pitted against each other for thousands of years. Like,
what's a sister wound?
The sister wound is the wound that has been created between women because of the patriarchy. Okay. So because women have been oppressed and because men were given this kind of like place at the top, there was so few spaces left for women that we kind of turned on each other for them.
Yeah, you have to compete.
It's really deep. I mean, going back to times where actually ratting each other out was a survival thing because women were being burned at the stake. Like it's deep ancestral wounding. And it shows up in this day and age as like comparison and gossip and bitchiness and whatever else, but it runs so deep, and that is the wound. And I think that one of the most powerful ways to heal the sister wound is start to celebrate other women and know that there is enough space for all of us. And that was one thing that changed my life. I used to, when I was insecure, comparing myself to other women and bitching about them and gossiping about them was a symptom of that wound massively. And my life and my success changed so much when I decided that I was going to start championing other women and being like, well, fucking done. And if she can do it, then so can I. And that's incredible. Yeah. And then like, also like asking her, like, how did you get to where you are? Like, what can I learn from you? Yeah. And what you realize is the most successful women, the majority of them, the ones that I've come across anyway, they are in such an abundant mindset that they want you to win too, because they're not like, oh, they're not gatekeeping. They're not being like, oh, this is my success and you do your thing and I'm not telling you how I got there. True success is like this abundance of like, there's enough for everyone. And they're the most successful people I know and the people that I want to be most like. So actually, when you start celebrating each other, you attract other women into your life that are doing the exact same thing. And then you all thrive and grow together.
Or at least authentic success.
Yeah.
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 So speaking of authenticity, it's such a buzzword, right? It's overused, but it's so important if you can actually achieve that. What does it mean to you? What is authenticity to you?
Mm-hmm. It's just the raw truth of who you are in every moment, and actually owning it, being okay with it, and being like, hey, look, right now I'm feeling really nervous, or I'm feeling really anxious, or I'm feeling really confident, or whatever it is, whatever is showing up for you in a moment, just to be with that and be open with it and be vulnerable with it. It's like when I think of authenticity, I think of like taking off all the masks, and that's been like my big journey, is like taking off the masks, taking off the filters, taking off the editing apps, taking off the people pleaser mask, taking off anything that makes me feel like I have to perform to be liked or to be loved or to be approved of. It's like stripping all of that away and being like, this is me. And I'm not perfect. I'm messy and I'm human, but it's me and I own that. And there's so much power in that. It's so sexy. It's so magnetic. It's so you just want to be around people like that. You know what you're going to get. They're never going to surprise you. They're never going to manipulate you. They're never going to lie to you. Like, they just are who they are. Yeah. And it gives you a permission slip to do the same thing, right? And it's so cool when you're in a room full of people who are all really authentic. Like how your nervous system feels in that space. It's like, oh, fuck, I just get to be me here. Rather than being in a room where everyone's pretending and putting on
Yeah.
some kind of performance or struggling with their own self-worth and it needs validation, you can feel the energy in a room like that around those people. And then you start to question, like, can I be here? Am I good enough to be here? Do I need to pretend? And you start to like put your own masks on as like a protection,
Sometimes I think about this whole subject, and I think about as a leader, being in a leading position, sometimes there also, at least in my opinion, is a sweet spot of how much you're showing or, telling the whole world about when you're going through the shit. And so sometimes it's okay to maybe you can keep some of that shit to yourself. Yeah. And then when you're gone through it, or maybe when you're coming out on the other side, or when you come through, sharing that experience and being like, oh yeah, I was, this was scary, or I was going through this and this is how I was able to go through it. I think it's a choice. You can choose to share all of it as it's happening, and you can choose to also hold back. And in my opinion, I don't think that that's necessarily a bad, inauthentic, right? It's just a strategy that sometimes, hey, if you've got, 10, 20, 50, 100 people counting on you, maybe at that moment, they don't need to see that you're afraid. Like I'm thinking like maybe even like in sports, right? You've got the captain is going into the final fourth quarter and maybe he's scared as hell. If he tells his whole team that he's super scared, everyone's just going to get like down, right? So maybe that's the moment. So maybe you have to pick and choose sometimes, right?
1000%. And I guess that's what I learned to do as well. It was like, because I used to overshare. And that again, oversharing in the name of authenticity was just a wound for me, because it was me showing up because I was like, I need that connection. I need to vent. I need to tell everyone. So I overshared because it gave me validation and I connected in that way because I was not myself, right? So I was calling it authenticity at the time, but I was really just kind of like word vomiting and offloading online.
Yeah.
And now I'm going through stuff and I absolutely hold it back. But again, coming back to the sweet spot, how much do I actually hold back too much because I'm afraid of what people will think? So then I lose the authenticity because I'm putting on this kind of like, because I'm a coach, I have to have my shit together and I'm fine. I'm doing great. And if I wasn't doing great, you wouldn't trust me. So then you lose yourself there. And it's like, okay, so where do we find this? Like,
once again, that sweet spot.
This is the title for the episode.
Yeah. Finding your sweet spot. I just started watching, I don't watch a lot of stuff, but I started watching this show called Shrinking. Have you heard of it?
Mm-mm.
So, but yeah, that's basically the theme. It's a comedy and about shrinks. It's about therapists and how they're just going through so much shit. And it's just sort of like this, as a coach or a mentor, it's tough, Megan, one of my favorite current subjects, playing big. You often talk about playing life big and taking a bigger role in life. How can you explain what that means to you and how you encourage others to embrace the mindset of playing big?
I really think that this concept came to me the more I pondered death. So it's like I went through this time where I was very afraid to die. And I went deep into the subject of death and like what that means to me and why I was so afraid of it. And I did a lot of meditation around imagining myself at the end of my life. And I just think that it gave me the most incredible perspective. I think when you're young, you kind of forget that you're going to die. It's like you just live as though, every day is a given. Everything's promised, like life's just going to go on and on and on and it's never going to end. And you just have this kind of like no awareness of like this having an expiry date. Like this is going to end one day. Like this, whether we, have more lives after this or we've had more lives before, I feel like in my opinion, in my belief is that this one right now is the one that you're in and you're not going to have this one again. Right. So I think sitting with that, it was like, so meditating on like, okay, so between the moment that I'm born and the moment that I die, what is this in between? What am I supposed to do with this in between? What's the meaning of it? And I just really felt this like explosion of expression, like to fully own every gift, every fear, every story, everything that comes up and comes through as part of the narrative of your life, to just own it and use it and do good with it. and play big. Like, I don't want to sit on the sidelines of my life and watch it pass by. I don't want to be like a fucking extra character in the background. I want to be the main character of my own life. I want to like do shit that excites me and scares me and creates memories. And I want to feel things so deeply. And like, whether that's the more heavy, difficult end of the spectrum of emotion, or it's the, you know, pure bliss and love. Like, I want to feel all of it. I want to feel the full spectrum of emotion as deeply as possible and make peace with that, because that's living, that's big, that's deep. And that's what I want for people to kind of experience. And I know that on a human level, it's very difficult to play big in a world where nobody really feels safe to, because there's so much judgment and there's so many people telling us how to live and how to act and how to be. And, you know, there's just all of this outside noise, especially now, especially with like cancel culture and the way the world has gone online, the amount of self-censorship that's going on.
Yeah.
People are just scared to speak. I've had it. I had like a good few months where I was like, I don't want to say anything. Everyone's getting cancelled. I don't want to speak anymore.
Yeah.
I just don't want any part of this toxic culture.
Right.
So yeah, I see it a lot, and I think that it's a huge thing for a lot of people. Like, I've seen two of my friends recently who are incredible women, terrified to start their own podcast. They've both done it now. But like terrified to like go online and speak and use their voice and voice their opinions in case of how will it be received?
Yeah.
Like, what are people going to say? How could my words be twisted? Like, there is just so much pressure, and it backs us into this corner where we end up being like, do you know what? It's safer for me to just shut up, sit down, play small, get on with it, settle for, you know, a mediocre existence where everything's just fine.
Yeah.
I won't bother anyone. I won't ruffle any feathers. And I just think that I would get to the end of my life at that point and be like, fuck, damn, why did I do that? I wish I just lived a bit bigger.
Yeah, there's a, I like that idea of coming to terms with death and looking at the end of your life. There's actually a great Jeff Bezos quote. I'm not like the biggest fanatic of Jeff Bezos or anything like that, but he was a long time ago. He was on Oprah a long time ago. I don't know if this was like 10 or 15 years ago, but basically he just says that he lives by his own method that he calls regret minimization. And he just looks at the end of his life and he looks back and he thinks, I want to live by having the minimal amount of regrets. And it's so ideally none, but that's almost impossible. But so just anything, if you think about, am I going to regret not trying this? Then you just try it, like bottom line. So that I love that concept. Playing big for me, I think it sometimes can feel very overwhelming, because for me, playing big typically goes along with setting these massive goals, right? So like playing big is just being this huge, you know, influence, inspiration, operating at my full potential, which, by the way, there's a concept recently that I've been playing with about potential versus capacity that I'm really, really into. But so how do you feel about that, about playing big and then sort of setting these massive goals that feel so hard to reach? Where do you start when people have these sort of massive goals? How do you start so that it's not overwhelming to want to play big and want to start to play big?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like when I think about playing big, it's not set, like, I do set big goals for myself, don't get me wrong. But it's like on a day-to-day basis. Like, how can I show up more fully for myself? How can I play bigger in this moment? How can I make a choice to stop scrolling and go do something that feels good for myself? Like, these are like micro choices throughout the day where it's like you get to just play a bit bigger, be more present, feel more fully, be more honest. Like, that's where I would start with that kind of, I think, again, getting into like the really big goals and stuff, which are amazing, but we all know what happens when we get overwhelmed. We end up playing small because we freeze, right? I do that. If I set a too big a goal for myself, I go into complete freeze, meltdown mode.
Such an interesting little example you just gave of stopping to scroll right now and doing something that I know that I should be doing or what to be doing. Like, that's a form of playing big. That's interesting. I honestly hadn't thought about that. I just thought that that's just a form of discipline. But
expansive. If you think about the word expansive, what can I do? When I think about big, like playing big, it's like, what is the most expansive option available to me right now?
I love that. I love that. I was mentioning the whole capacity versus
Yeah, go on, tell me.
what's that?
Tell me about it.
Yeah, capacity versus potential. Now I'm blanking on gosh, I wonder if that came from that same book that I was talking about that I was going to quote. But potential is overwhelming as hell. Potential is like, what is my ultimate potential? It's this far away thing, and I'm only going to reach it when I die, because then I reached my full potential, right? Like nobody reaches their full potential when they're 25, right? I mean, I guess you could be like, okay, Messi just won the World Cup, like, and he's got all these things. So when he retires, he's achieved his full potential, but not really, right? Because at the end of the day, there's all these other things in his life about him, being the father that he wants to be throughout, whatever it is, right? So potential is very overwhelming and it's scary. It's like, how the hell am I going to reach my full potential today? It's just one day. Yeah. So it's like, what is my capacity? What is my full capacity? So I think that I like combining it with some of the words that you talked about just right now, though, of maximizing. What did you say? Expanding, right? So it's like, how can I be? Yeah. So it's like, what is my full, like my most expanded capacity for today or at this moment? And that's a beautiful way to play big. That's a form of playing big without the massive, huge goals or the potential down the line when you die or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, exactly. And like another way of looking at it is like, for me, it goes into, like you were just saying, it goes, so there's also the element of fatherhood, and how can he play big in that area, and how can he deepen his presence in that part of his life. But also, like, there are these moments where you might choose not to do the thing that would feed your success externally, but something that's more for yourself, like canceling doing something that would be seen as successful, but you actually chose to do the expansive thing, which was to come back into time with yourself and do something self-loving. So it can work both ways. And I think we have to be careful not to see playing big as this constant game of like success, external success, but also like internal success,
Playing big can be going into the bathtub and reading a book or meditating. Mm-hmm. Definitely hadn't thought about that way. I'm going to be playing big all fucking day now. In the bathroom. That's great. You also talked about playing big in terms of being of service to others. And that's a concept. It's like, how can I serve? How can I serve? I've read that a lot. I've heard that a lot. How can I serve? It's actually it's somewhat challenging sometimes to me to continually think about how can I serve, because there's these concepts that maybe are just there from forever of serving being this sort of servant-like thing, and being a servant is low. It's not playing big. So this concept of serving, of being of service, is an interesting way to tie that to playing big. So give it to me. Hey guys, I just want to remind you, if you want to find more content like this, you can visit sebastiannaum.com. That's Sebastian, Naum.com. You can also get a ton of other marketing resources from myself and my agencies, ranging from SEO to social media, influencer marketing, branding, web development, and more. Again, that's Sebastiannaum.com. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of the show.
Okay. I mean, I feel like what that brought up for me just then when you said that was the people pleasery stuff, where it's like, and I spoke about this recently, it's that there is such a big difference between when you think of serving and giving from love, because that's who you are, and it's a natural extension of the love that comes from within you, from your life force, from your gifts. And then there's giving for love, giving because I am empty and I am unworthy unless I am giving, That's when we overgive. That's when we step into that servant mode where we actually abandon ourselves. We forget about our own needs, and we spend our entire lives giving ourselves away at the expense of ourselves. So that's like this overgiving energy. And what it really comes from is low self-worth. So it's like, if I give to you, then you give me some worth. You give me something back. Like there's this kind of like external outsourced validation of giving. So when you give from love, because that's who you are, it's there's not really any, I mean, in my experience, there's not really any effort involved. You know, you're just being you and who you are as a person who is full of love and full of just this kind of like generous overflowing energy. Like who you are will be of service to people without you even realizing you're doing it, just by being who you are.
I love that. That's a great test then, right? That's a great way to test for yourself of, does this giving feel like a drag, and is it like killing my energy, right? Sometimes like it sort of brought me back to being a kid, and I think about it, right? So sometimes you like get forced to go do some sort of do good thing, to go volunteer for something or give back, and how a lot of those times those ended up being moments where they ended up being great and you felt good about it and all that, and other times it was a drag. So it's just interesting, and maybe that's just what it's not. Maybe that's not the service type of thing for you or for me, right? And it just depends finding that one that actually gives you energy.
Yeah, and that's very personal to you, right? The way that you love to give will light you up in ways. Like sometimes there's certain things that I've given and like it's brought me to tears, and I'm like, giving in that way makes me feel so alive, and like that I got to help this person feel this way because of what I gave is the biggest reward in the whole. Nothing feels better than that. And that's very individual to the person. You know, we can't give everyone everything all the time. And like you said, like there's a huge difference between someone telling you to go and do something and give from that place, especially, you know, when you think about the upbringing with church and being told to go be a good person, you know, like, don't sin, go and do good things and be a good person. There's this pressure, the external pressure on it to be like, to do good, because then you'll, I don't know what, go to heaven or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's kind of for yourself as well, isn't it? It's like a selfish giving.
Yeah. Interesting. There's studying in psychology, I cannot remember what the name of this is, but there is that concept that literally everything you do is selfish, because no matter what, if you're doing something to give someone to someone else, it actually feels good for you, and then therefore it's selfish. It's a weird way to think about it, but
it's true.
But anyways, and there's actually a lot of science behind sort of kind acts and kindness to others, about how it actually releases serotonin and dopamine and all these beautiful things. And so it's like legitimately healthy to give and to be kind and to be good to people.
1000%. I think that happened when I was, sorry to interrupt you, but I was going through my big healing journey around my eating disorder and things. And I remember I read it in a book or someone told me, I can't remember, but they were like, stop focusing on you and go focus on other people. And it was one of the best things I ever did. I made a whole project out of it. I was like writing reassuring notes to people and leaving them on benches. I was tying me and hanging it from a tree. I was like the random act of kindness queen. And honestly, like there is a selfish side of that, because it made me feel amazing and I kept doing it. And but also, you know, there is that feeling of like, who's going to find that note and who's going to find that money, and maybe they really need it and it's going to brighten their day. And like, that is the ultimate, I mean, what's that saying? Like, I think it was Wayne Dyer that said, like, we come to the earth with nothing and we leave with nothing. So our purpose in this time must be to give ourselves away, right?
Yeah, that's a beautiful quote. Yeah, I have a good friend. Her name is Megan. She's actually been on the podcast a long time ago, and she's like, she's like the queen of like random acts of kindness and does all kinds of stuff. And a lot of it is just very much tied to mental health. And it's like, you can be when you're feeling down, like if you're really feeling down, like go out and do some random acts of kindness, see what that does for you. Yeah. So it's so powerful. So I'm going to read a quote from that book, because it keeps coming up. Apparently, I thought it wasn't going to come up till now, but it's already come up. But so this is, so here we go. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it is in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated, from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. So that is, from Marianne Williamson, A Return to Love. And it's just the best fucking quote ever. And so
so good. I feel like that quote just embodies everything that I stand for. Everything.
So Megan, how are you going to be playing bigger over the next 12 months?
Oh, dude, it's so funny that you literally just read that quote, because I was sat doing a full moon ritual with my friend. Luckily, a lot of my friends are coaches, but my friend Wendy is an incredible coach. And I was sat with her the other night and I was like, I feel so stuck right now in my career. I feel like I'm on the brink of something and I don't know what it is yet. And I feel like what I've been doing so far is like run its course, and there's something new that wants to come through. And I'm so overwhelmed by trying to figure out what that is. And we did some WhatsApp journaling and coaching together. And we dug and we dug and we dug, and we found that like my biggest fear is success. Like it really scares the fucking shit out of me. I'm not gonna lie. Like it scares me. And I've had book deal offers and so many things that I know I could be doing. Like you were saying, like how your potential is so overwhelming.
Yeah.
Even the thought of like starting to do paid ads and scaling my business and things, I'm like, me? Really? Like what? I can't imagine this to myself. Like I've been just sitting in this comfort zone for so long and doing well with it, but I'm at a point where it's like, let's expand. So right now, this is a good question. It's very relevant right now.
I had to put you on the spot at least once.
Yeah, you have. Because
properly put you on the spot.
Real right now. But I guess for me right now, there's going to be a lot of surrender, because I feel like recently I've been like a mad scientist in a lab trying to figure out what's going on with me, and like, who am I supposed to be? And like, what am I going to do next? And it's like me just kind of like trying to figure it all out. And actually there is such a really distracting micromanaging energy about that actually pulls you away from the answer, which is definitely found in surrender and stillness and silence and flow and receiving. I'm not letting myself receive the answer because I'm too busy trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
So right now, I know that there's a big expansion coming. And there just seems to be this big question mark over it all. And I don't know what to do next. So I think for me right now, I'm going to go into a time of like surrender, probably less time on my phone, less time just being distracted, less time scrolling, less time kind of in Instagram and in social media and like posting and things, and actually take a bit of time away and be like, okay, next level requires a new Meg. Let's let her come through. I don't think that these new versions of us can come through when we're just so fucking distracted.
And that's tough, especially for you, because you've built your brand and your business, and most of your success has come around great content and giving people great valuable content. And it's so exhausting and overwhelming to create and put things out all the time, right? I mean, because even as a creator, even if you have a full-time team of people helping you out, which is awesome and amazing, if one can get to that place, it's still you and your voice, and so you still want to make sure that it sounds like you. So you're still going back and forth and curating and revising and posting, and then it's so much energy, and you want to be authentic. So the bigger the audience you have, you want to be responding to your audience and to the comments. And oh my God, I just want to throw my phone into the ocean. You know?
You're in my head right now.
Yeah. I can only imagine, and so, I feel you. So that's a good way that's a way for you to be playing bigger, is to maybe slow down on that sense and listen. We can get real woo-woo on this if we really want, and be like, what is your human design? I'd say, what is your human design?
I'm a manifesting generator.
Yeah. So same. So basically, so the idea there is, I just did a full on thing with this. So the idea there is actually allowing things to come to you, and you're sort of this yes, no, and also by listening to your gut way down low and being like, yeah, this is it, or no, this is not. When you're doing and doing and doing, it's frustrating, it's overwhelming. And so
1,000%. Maybe I should look more into my human design.
Some of my listeners are like, what the fuck are you talking about? Yeah.
Hey, this is nothing. This is hardly any woo-woo.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so if anyone out there listening, this is actually quite interesting to look into your human design and actually try to learn about it and see if it resonates. It may not resonate. If it doesn't resonate, throw it away, whatever. But for me, it has helped because it has reduced a little bit of that anxiety of being a doer and being like, maybe that's not in my design to be constant doer. It doesn't mean you sit on your couch. It just means that once you allow something to come in, if it's a fuck yes, then you do and you go and you act. But as opposed to just constantly doing to find out.
Yeah, that is so true. Yeah. I'm going to look more into it. You've inspired.
So Megan, the most common way for people to aim to make more money and have more abundance is simply by working harder and implementing hustle mentality. Essentially hustle, outwork everyone at all costs, forget about mental health, forget about health, and basically be on the verge of burnout because the end justifies the means. So what connection do you see between prioritizing mental health and well-being and finding our authentic selves to make more money and generate more abundance to create a better life for ourselves and those around us?
Oh, it's such a funny subject for me right now because I'm in that process of going deeper into those layers, because I did a lot of my work around my money beliefs many years ago because I was broke. When I first moved to London, I was so broke. I actually remember lifting up the sofa looking for coins to buy food. Like,
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Don't get me wrong. I could, I'd kind of exhausted asking family members and friends to borrow money and stuff. So there was, I've never not had people around me.
Right.
I'm still privileged, but there was moments where I was too afraid to ask for more money. So I'm like searching for coins and all that.
Also for Americans to understand, at that time, there were some seriously valuable €2 coins. Just want to throw that out there.
Hey, we have pounds, not euros. So
sorry, that's right, pounds, even better. So with inflation, our coins in the States are nothing.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah, they were valuable. Those were pound coins. But yeah, that was like a really low moment for me where I was like, oh my goodness. And I went digging into my money beliefs, and there was this belief of like, the harder you work, you have to graft. There was so many beliefs around, I can't even go into how many negative money beliefs that I had, but I've done a lot of healing from that. And then I then built my wealth and I built my abundance, and I was doing so well. And I was like, I've cracked it. I've done it. I'm so good at this. And it was so empowering, especially because I was a single mom and I was really learning how to receive money and have this beautiful relationship with money and love money and celebrate money and be like, I'd actually say like, I love money and money's amazing, and that not feel like confronting or like cringe. As a woman as well, like we haven't had the same relationship with money as men. And, when you imagine a rich person, immediately when I imagined a millionaire, it was a middle-aged white man, So it's like there was so much more to unpack with being a woman. And I was really proud of myself, but there was an element that I hadn't kind of paid much attention to, which was the holding of it. Like I was really good at learning how to relax around money and knowing that the more authentic I was and the more I was myself and the more I did what lights me up and followed my excitement, the more natural abundance would come from that. Like it was like, as soon as I stopped doing things that didn't light me up and I followed the path, which scared the shit out of me. And don't get me wrong, there was moments where I was like, is this going to work? I don't know. But I stayed with it. And I eventually you get to that point where you're like, I can get paid to be me. Like I can get paid to do what lights me up. I can get paid to be fully in my passion. And actually that's where I'm going to make the most money because I'm in my most abundant self. But yeah, for me, it was last year when my accountants fucked up and I was like, well, actually, my accountants did fuck up, but also I fucked up because I wasn't paying attention to what my accountants were doing. So there was a lot of stuff around like, being irresponsible around money and then now all of this kind of stuff around holding it and managing it and understanding it and not ignoring the tax bill and not being like, it's just not for me. It's just like I can make it and I love it, but actually doing the numbers and the financial stuff, like I'm going to ignore that stuff because it's just I'm a woman and it's not for me. So, the journey of abundance, the journey of learning how to make and hold and build wealth rather than just make money and spend it, actually build wealth is an ongoing big journey. So, I can't really speak to you in a like super reflective state of like, I learned all of this and it was amazing. And now I've got this like really stable, like wealth situation going on and I'm thriving. I'm still learning, I'm still growing, and it's hard. But I definitely believe that abundance comes when we are most in our power and most authentic and most in alignment with what our soul purpose is.
Yeah. And it's not related to working harder.
No.
You can work. I mean, sometimes you have to work harder on certain things when you are aligned, when you feel aligned with it and in purpose. But just to work harder for the sake of it, it doesn't work. Yeah. I actually you remind me, I had a great lesson from my pops early on in my entrepreneurial journey, which was, he's like, you need to learn to love taxes. I was like, what? I hate taxes. That's the worst. Look at those forms. He's like, so you don't have to learn the forms. Like your accountant can do that, but understand as much as possible about it. Because the more you understand it, the more you're going to master it. You're going to be able to keep the most amount of money and invest the most amount of money. You're going to end up loving taxes. It's so freaking weird. And now I actually do, which is really weird. I'm like, I actually kind of love taxes. I do, because I've learned to really work it in a legal manner as much as possible to make the best of it. And it's just funny. Yeah.
So. I remember one of the beliefs that I had was like, don't make more money because then you have to pay more tax.
It's so crazy. Yeah. Like I've got some people are like, oh my God, I paid, $200,000 in taxes. I'm like, well, then you made $1 million. Like, that's amazing. Like, don't complain, pay more tax. You want to pay more taxes so that you can make more money, but then also pay the least as you can within that.
Be clever.
Exactly. What about fun, Megan? You seem to have a lot of fun. How important do you think it is to implement fun into work, into life? Is there a connection there too with your little one that taught you to have more fun in life? Because being a parent can be so serious and challenging and overwhelming. So fun, work, being a mom.
Yeah, fun is just, what is life without fun? What's the point?
Yeah.
I really do feel like it's so easy to fall into this trap of taking life too seriously and constantly stressing and constantly worrying and constantly trying to get it right so much that life just passes you by and you forgot to fucking laugh. Like you forgot to have a good time. You forgot to stop taking everything so seriously and actually just be in the moment. There is so much joy in the moment. There is so much joy available in the present moment, and not in like a toxic positivity kind of way, but like genuinely, when you can get into that mindset of just letting things be and just knowing that things are going to take care of themselves, the amount of joy and fun. And actually, I do find that the more I'm in my joy, the more I'm in my fun, that things take care of themselves a lot quicker. You remove yourself from the stress and the anxiety and you go, okay, I'm just going to tap out of that energy right now and just go back into fun and have a good time. Forget about it. I'm going to go, like this weekend I went to a fairground with my daughter, and like you just get lost in those moments where you're just being silly and joking and laughing your head off. And also, like when I think about all my favorite memories in life, it's where I'm like laughing my head off with like some of my closest friends and family.
Yeah.
They're the best moments. They're the ones that stand out to me the most, like the fun times. And also like when you are a person who is very cares about the world and wants to make a difference, and you're passionate and you've got a mission, you've got to be careful that you don't get so sucked into the seriousness of all of that you forget to just have a good time.
Yeah, that can happen really easily because the mission is so important, and the mission itself can be very serious, be challenging. That sweet spot again, how do you get to that sweet spot of still having fun if the mission is serious? Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So it's funny when you said that, like the quick thought of some of the best moments for me when that came, it was most of the ones that I saw really fast were these sort of massive moments of connection to nature and sort of the awe of nature and grandeur and the connectedness with nature for me. So I think I need to go on another trip soon. Yeah. every time when I see people that I don't see like every week, they're like, "How have you been? You've been traveling all over." I'm like, "Really? I need to go again." I'm planning another trip. So I've seen you have the Thrive Project, the Blank Page, you have retreats. Do you want to share a little bit about any of these projects, so that what really lights you up? What are you doing with them? How are you making a difference in people's lives with these projects?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the Thrive Project was the first course that I ever created off the back of my own my spiritual journey was like, at that point, it was kind of like, it started before the moment. There was like little bits and bobs that I was like reading about and stuff, but there was years and years and years of this spiritual journey that I was like, God, I wish someone would condense this down for me into a course, because it would be so much easier to be given the bits that work, the parts that really land and really resonate and really do change your life, and then just leave all the rest. So that's what I did with the Thrive Project. And it was very much a channeled course. I think that was one of my first experiences of like proper channeling, where I was like, we're getting a bit woo-woo now. But this is like, so people are going to be like, what? But this is so beyond me. This is just stuff that wanted to come through me. And again, about how may I serve, that whole energy of like, there is a message that wants to come through, and that course built itself. It just built itself. It was like I wasn't even there. It just came through, and I wrote it, and then I videoed it, and then I did all of the meditations and everything for it. And the feedback was like, just unreal. I was like, I can't believe I created that, and I can't believe people are having these results from it, and I can't believe that I've managed to package up my spiritual growth experience and put it into a 10-week course for people to change their lives like that, rather than like meeting it over years. So that was really cool.
Really cool.
That was really cool. And then there's the Blank Page is like my new thing. I'm trying to not do the whole, I'm an Aries and I have ADHD. So I love to jump around and make new things, like new shiny things. I'm constantly doing new things and new courses and I'm trying to like hone in on the Blank Page and make that my thing, because it's just great. It's for anyone that's feeling stuck and like really in that space of like stagnant. And it's funny because I'm in that right now, and it reminds me that
it's for you.
It's for me. But it reminds me that those moments in life can happen over and over and over again. Even just every death and rebirth kind of portal that we go through there's gonna be some stickiness there. And what we really need in these moments is to come back home to ourselves and reconnect with the part of us that is infinite and unchanging, so that we don't feel stuck. And that's what the Blank Page does. It brings people back into their power, aligns them back with, it also gives them this like a deep self-assessment of like, who am I now? Because I think that we cling to old identities so heavily that we actually we actually just feel way too scared to embrace a new version of us. So the Blank Page takes people on a journey of like, okay, but who are you now? Like, what are your values now? Like, what have you learned, and what are you going to take from that, and what can you shed and let go of, so that you can step into who you're here to become? So that's just a fun one. Yeah. What was the other thing? Oh, retreats.
Yeah. I was going to say to that, it's one thing that was a major concept that helped me get unstuck. Was this idea of being able to change all the time. Like I don't have to be the same person I was last year. Yeah. And I don't have to be the same person I was a month ago. In fact, I don't have to be the same person I was last week or even 15 minutes ago, because you can just keep changing, right? It doesn't mean that you're just like sort of this back and forth, like you say one thing and then another, and then you just you have no, like there's nothing to you, you know what I mean? Like there's nothing that you believe in. But in terms of growing, you have the full capacity and permission to continually change. And
we forget that we have choices. We get so stuck in autopilot that we're like, it's yesterday becomes tomorrow. And then, that cycle.
Yeah. Well, it's also a fear of judgment, I think, too, of the people that we know and our friends and this and that. It's like, who are they going to think I am? Like, oh, you're not the same, you're not you, you're not well, obviously I'm not college Seb, right? Like, thank God. But Yeah, I just think it's an interesting thing. People are just so afraid to change. I think mainly because of what are people going to think about me? They're going to think that I flip-flop. They're going to think that I'm being inauthentic because I've changed. And being authentic is you actually stepping into that change and owning it.
Yep, exactly. Sweet spot again.
Yeah, what about these retreats? What are they like?
God, retreats is just like, I remember being on the last retreat and just being like, this is it. This is what I want to do. This is me fully. Because I think with COVID, what happened was that I got so stuck in behind the screen situation that I kind of felt like I lost my real life communication skills. Like I really did. It was so funny. I used to work in a hotel behind the reception, and I cannot tell you, being on reception every single day and talking to people constantly, like I just got so good with people in real life. It just came so naturally to me, and it was just so easy. And then I remember after COVID just being like choking in like a middle of a conversation, being like, what do I say and how do I act? And so stepping into retreats after COVID was like a huge deal, because I was like, this is scary, like being in front of people in real life. I don't know. My coaching career really took off through COVID, and that was all webinars and online Zoom. The Zoom life. But retreats are just there's something magical happens on retreats. There's just the safe space that's created, and there's such a container, because it's got this, you've got a whole week in the sunshine for a start, which is great for anyone who lives here, because it's just, the sunshine does magical things when you live in the clouds. But yeah, you can take them on a real journey, and they're surrounded by other women who are in the same boat as them. And they're a lot of women that are my age, in our 30s, late 20s, early 40s, really struggle with making friends, really struggle with community. Again, the sister wound is a big part of that. But just even going up to another woman and being like, hey, you want to be friends? Want to hang out? Want to go do something together? But in a retreat setting, you just become like family. So it gives them that as well, which I just think is magic.
Well, I was going to move into my last question, but you said something that triggered another question. So now I'm going to ask you, first of all, that sounds amazing. That sounds like beautiful retreats. This whole concept of community. Community has been a word that I've just been hearing so much over the last few years. In fact, with one of my best girlfriends, we joke about it. It's like we make jokes about it, because we just see that in some senses there's a lot of fake community, just like there's fake spirituality. And community can turn into clickiness very easily sometimes. And it can sort of throw back into the sort of old school, high school vibe of clique type stuff. Yeah. So like, what is community to you? What is community to you when you're talking about building these communities with women? What does it mean to you? What is a true community?
I think safety is the main thing that comes through to me. And I think when you talk about the cliqueiness, that's something I experienced at school. And that's why I'm so passionate about not having that in my spaces. And I'm very happy about that. I'm like, we're not here to leave people out. We're not here to make people feel less than. Like, I remember one of my core, most horrendous memories was being at university and somebody kicking me out of a party in front of everyone. Like, everyone went silent. And this girl was like, nobody wants you here. You have to leave. And I was just, this group of people just rejected me completely, and I really wanted to be friends with them. And
that's like a movie. Like, it got silent and she kicked you out of the party?
Yeah.
Whew.
I know. It was.
I had a very similar, but mine was one-on-one. It wasn't like,
Oh, okay, yeah. One
that's
person.
not even.
Full of people, just something different to you. That stayed with me for
Oh man.
Yeah. That was really hard, really, really hard. And I had actually not done anything wrong. Like, I hadn't done anything. And there was no part of me that deserved it, so it was hard. But because of that wound, and it still hurts now to talk about it. But because of that, I am very, very, it's safety, it's feeling seen, it's feeling heard, it's feeling safe to be vulnerable. And again, masks off. I always say, like, in circles, when we do women's circles, like, masks off. Everybody take your mask off. Like, you don't have to be anyone else here.
Yeah.
And it's so healing to be around people that don't judge you. Like, no judgment. We're all human. If you don't want to be judged, then don't judge others. And notice when you are as well. So yeah, that's for community. For me, it's like everyone's on the same level. There's no hierarchy. There's no comparison. There's just this big, open, loving space. and everyone's invited and everyone's included and everyone's accepted and everyone's loved. Nobody gets kicked out.
I love it. I love it. Nobody gets kicked out. I love it. Megan, what are your top two traits that a conscious leader must embody?
I think I'm going to say integrity because it's my number one value in life. And by that, I mean, like, be a living, breathing embodiment of your own message, you know? And when you're not, because you're human and sometimes that might happen, like, call yourself out on it and course correct so that you are back in integrity. And then I think kind of what we were touching on before, like that sense of like waking up with this feeling of my life is bigger than me, you know? It's like there's this saying that I love, which is leave people better than you found them. And I think that there's just something so beautiful about coming to this earth at this time and being in this life and being like, I want to leave this place better than I found it. And in every interaction and every person that works for you and every thing you do in your business, like, how are you leaving people and the world around you better than when you found it?
I love it. It's beautiful. Well, Megan, you are truly a conscious leader. So please,
thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Anyone listening can check out Megan on social. We'll have all the links in the show notes to the blank page, her retreats, all that fun stuff. So thank you so much for being on, Megan, and keep doing you.
Thank you. I will. You too.
Hey guys, I really hope you enjoyed that episode. You know, it takes a lot to put these things together, but I truly love doing it. If you enjoyed this episode or the show in general, and you listen to it on audio podcast, please take some time to give it a review. It would really mean a lot to me. And if you watch the video, please go ahead and just click subscribe and share it with somebody that you think would like it. It would really mean the world to me, and it helps keep the show alive. Visit sebastiannaum.com for more content and follow me on Instagram at sebnaum. That's SEBNAUM. Thanks again for spending your time with me. I know it is valuable. I hope you have a great rest of the day and week. Till next time.